Hello guys, Amandu here and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. I wouldn't call this a tutorial, but I got a few comments about my bleach technique with ink. So I decided to do a little video to talk a little bit more about the whole thing. Basically what I'm going to do is I have my swatch here and I'm going to show you how to work with this ink, and also if you were wondering, oh, can I do this technique with any other kind of ink? I wouldn't recommend it, and I'm going to show you just. So the first ink we have here is Chinese ink. This is Sttaford ink. This is regular Chinese ink in the color black, and that's going to go in our number 1 little hole here in the palette. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some black ink, like pure, direct from the little bottle, and then I'm gonna put some ink that's diluted in water, just to show you if there's any difference if you use water or you use pure ink. The next ink we are going to try is going to be Indian ink, and this is my Casa Cerra drawing ink. This says it's a Chinese Indian ink, so I really don't know what that means, but it's ink. So this is green and I'm going to use it in the same way. I'm gonna take it directly from the bottle and then with a little water. This ink is actually very weird, and it looks kind of like if it was already diluted, even when you get it right out of the bottle. It's not a very strong ink, but I find that the color is less powerful than, say, liquid watercolors. So I'm not exactly sure what kind of ink this is. Okay, for our swatch number 3 we have this Speedball Super Black Indian ink. It says Chinese ink underneath, but I believe this is Indian ink because it's way darker than any other ink I've ever used. You're gonna see it in just a second that the black you get with this ink, like right out of the bottle, is very dark, even after it dries. Okay, so you can see how the ink is, this is Chinese ink, this is Indian ink, and it's way darker. I really like inking with the number 3 swatch. But let's do number 4 and we're gonna use watercolor. This is actually some leftover violet watercolor that I had from my La Quemada illustration. So we're simply gonna put like a layer of watercolor to see if the bleach technique does anything. This watercolor, by the way, was in a tube and I believe it's Faber-Castell. For the next ink, I actually don't know the brand of ink that I have. This is fountain pen ink, that I can tell you for sure. Now, I tried looking for it on Amazon, but I just couldn't find the exact same bottle I have, so I can't tell you the brand, but I can tell you that fountain ink will work. Now, fountain pen ink is a very weird thing, because when I bought this ink, the box said it was black. Now when you use it directly from the little bottle, it does look kind of dark, but it also looks kind of purple. And I know this didn't only happen to me because I learned this technique when I was in college. I learned it in a class that was called experimental illustration, and everyone bought different brands of ink, and I remember that for some people the ink was green and for some people it was blue, even though we all bought like fountain pen ink supposedly black, so that really varied from brand to brand. And then for our very last swatch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this little space we have left with a Sharpie. Now Sharpie ink is alcohol based, so I don't know how that's going to react to the bleach. I'm not expecting it to react at all. And the same goes for the Micron pen I'm going to use on the other side of this little space. Because I always use Micron pens for inking, well, most of the time, and I've never seen them react to the bleach, no matter how much I use. So I really don't think that there's going to be any kind of problem with it. Now that we have all of our swatches, I decided to get a bit more experimental. Now I'm going to use the Crayola markers that I reviewed on my video. I'm going to add a card here if you want to check that review out. But I'm using the Crayola alternative markers, and I want to see how this technique reacts with water-based markers. Now I believe 2 of these 4 markers I'm going to use are actually alcohol based, so I'm not expecting it to work with those, but we'll see. now is where the fun begins. So, first with the Chinese ink, I use a toothpick and the brush to apply bleach, but nothing happens. And if you do this, you will notice that when it works almost immediately. So if your ink is not reacting, then nothing is happening. I thought something was happening, but it was actually some leftover paint I had in the brush, so yeah. Next we're going to try the green ink. I was almost sure I had the same result, but I actually got a reaction from the ink when mixed with water. And that was very strange. After I let it dry, I noticed that you do get a reaction after a few seconds, but honestly it's not that much. For number 3 we have Indian ink, and Indian ink, as I've said, is very powerful. And when these marks started appearing, I was so excited. I thought, wow, this looks amazing. Then I realized, oh, my brush is dirty, because when I started using the toothpick, nothing really happened. The next swatch is watercolor, and nothing happened with watercolor. I was not expecting anything to happen because watercolors are water-based. Now I wanted to leave number 5 for the end because it's the one I know it's going to react. So we're gonna see what happens with the other 2 inks. Now, absolutely nothing happened with either the Sharpie or with the Micron pens. I actually had with the Micron pens the same effect I had with the Indian ink, but after it was dry, it all just went away. Now you can already see number 5 is reacting to the bleach that got splattered from the other ones, and here's where the magic really begins. Now with the fountain pen ink, you are going to notice the effect right away, and the difference is huge. It looks like stars to me. I actually use this ink for one of my Inktober, well, for many of my Inktober pieces. I'm gonna leave a card to the first one of those in the corner. As you can see, with fountain pen ink, it just reacts immediately, and it looks really magical, and it happens so fast. You don't have to wait for it to dry, it will happen. This is the only ink that I know that this happens in this way. Now just to make sure we covered everything, I'm going to be using the exact same bleach on the other swatches that I made with markers. Now what I did notice is that this is happening just like it happened with one of the other swatches. It's just removing the ink. The metallic one and the glitter one, nothing happened with those. But with the water-based markers, bleach actually bleached the ink. And you can see it right away, then it will start to like come off. It's not reacting at all because you can see that the white, it's actually the white, the original white of the paper. So it's not reacting, it's only bleaching and sucking out the color. Now it looks really cool, and I would love to explore that for a background or something like that, but it's not the same effect that you get with a fountain pen. It's interesting though, I didn't know that would happen. So, now that we know what's going on, let me just give you a few fast tips on how to do this thing. Remember that the color of the ink may vary. It reacts in weird ways, so exploring with it will be a lot of fun. Now, unless you really want to make a mess out of it, I wouldn't recommend using a large brush or making very big like splashes the bleach, because it tends to expand. So if you do something very thick, it will most likely grow a little bit more than you could plan it to. That's why I almost always use either needles or toothpicks, because they give me a lot of room to work with and they are very thin. So it allows for a lot of little details without having to risk the ink just expanding too much. Now, I don't carry that giant bottle around. I normally keep my bleach in this little jam jar that I have. I would recommend using either a glass jar or a plastic bottle or something, like a small plastic container, because if you put it in a tin can or something like that, it will oxidate it, just like the tips. If you decide to do something with this technique, please show me, I would love to see it. And I will see you next time, guys. Comment, share, and subscribe if you like this video, and see you soon. Stay creative. Bye, guys.